Hey there YouTube, this is Itachi13, aka 13 Dragon Blade, coming at you with a little explanation for a new deck that I'm attempting to build. I'm actually going to call it the No deck, or the Tyrant's deck. I'm thinking of really two major decks in mind that have major hate toward the meta. I realized how good these two cards were, and then I pulled them aside. And I also realized, besides the Swing of Memories I just kind of tossed aside, that these three actually work great together. There's also one card that is also really good that helps with this combo. Unfortunately, though, they can all be stopped by one card if done the proper way, Heavy Storm. So in that case, you would want to set a bribe or something else to deal with it. These two lock your opponent out of monster effects entirely. They can't normal or special summon monsters, and they can't activate monsters that activate with their effects on the field or in the hand, so that shuts them down. And as if things wouldn't get any worse, there comes Royal Prison in the picture if you really want to shut them down. To shut down monster effects that activate in the or monsters that can't be special from the graveyard, which, this one says no more specials in general, so this card just shuts them down. But then I looked at this card and I realized this is actually a really old card. But now since we got Rescue Rabbit, it's actually quite good. All normal monsters are unaffected by spell cards, which makes it a great asset for these two. Basically, you lock down their summoning, you lock down their monster effects, and then you have Tyrant's Temper, which locks down. It makes your monsters unaffected by trap cards. So you have this unaffected by spells, unaffected by traps. They can't activate their monster effects. Neither player can, but the only thing that I can say is that this doesn't really bug you because you're running a bunch of normies in this deck, and you have really, really high attacking normies like, well, let's see, Jondrite Dragon, you have Luster Dragon, you have Archfiend Soldier, Sabersaurus, that kind of stuff. So more than likely, all they're going to need is a little power boost, and if you do this early, you shut down your opponent from a lot of things. This pretty much just shuts down the entire meta. And if you want to be a douche and protect your monsters, well, there you go. The Rescue Rabbit is actually for attributing for the Tyrant's cards, which is something that a lot of people never thought about using with Rescue Rabbit. They always said, oh, well, you need to exceed, man. True. There's nothing wrong with Rescue Rabbit exceeding, but I'd prefer using it for these. If I can shut my opponent down, I'd prefer doing that, because if you shut them down, that gives them more things to worry about. And as long as you protect those four cards, you're golden. I wish I had Tyrant's Temper, because then I would just automatically just say no to everything, because it stops spells, traps, monster effects, and summons. And then all you have to do to get past this card is set. So can your opponent, so you just gotta make sure to play around it. Anyway, like I said, this deck utilizes Rescue Rabbit, so I'm going to just go into detail on what are the pros and cons of having this deck. Well, pros, it shuts down your opponent, makes them have to deal with a lot of threats from your big normal monsters, and it also has to have them deal with quite a few things. I mean, you can set, which I am actually going to be running in this deck, your Stealth Birds, which your Stealth Birds also help put pressure on your opponent because, as we all know, his effect is pretty broken. When he's flip summoned, he inflicts 1,000, and then you can flip him back down during the main phase. As long as you can keep abusing that effect, he's really good. And that's why we run other stuff, like Level Limit Area B. We also run, of course, Gravity Bind. So we have 3 Gravity Binds, we have Level Limit Area B, Swords, stuff like that to help stall for his effect to go off. And as long as you have that lockdown going, your opponent's not going to be able to do much of anything. But please note that once you have Tyrant's Tirade out in the field, Stealth Bird is useless. So after that, you might as well just let him get destroyed or tribute him for an even bigger normie. And now we're going to shortly get into the Rescue Rabbit thing. Like I said, Rescue Rabbit has multiple purposes in this deck. He's used to get, of course, I had to tech them in here because why not run this OK dinosaur? It's 19, it's very good, and I have 3 copies that somebody didn't want, and they're just like, oh, I'll take them. Anyway, and then there's Rescue Rabbit, who also can get into these, which these are big beat sticks, very hard to get over. It's just, it makes these Alendrite dragons. What more can you ask for? The deck's just too good to have it with it. And then, of course, we have these two, which are just beat sticks. They're 24 big Ds. Sure, you give me an opponent card, but it doesn't matter, as long as you get monsters off the field. And then, of course, let's just search out the rabbit, because you have to search it out like that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then, of course, the other boss monster, if all else fails, you have Chaos Sorcerer. Just build up your graveyard. That basically just goes for that. And then the only other spell that I utilize in this deck is actually the Seal of Orichalcos, because the Seal of Orichalcos is really good. You can use it once per duel. It gives your monsters a little boost, destroys all special summon monsters you control, but again, you're not going to be special summoning, you're not going to be using your extra deck that often, you're just going to be using your normal monsters and beating your opponent in the face, and getting that 500 point boost could mean the time of the life changer. You can make all of your Alendrite dragons 25 beaters, you can make anything else 24 beater, 23 beater, and then of course this gives you some space in your extra deck to run Ilusil Dorkologia, just for another choice, because you have the Rescue Rabbits. If you want, you can run Cobblosaurus, because he's actually quite a decent beater. He's 17. So, if you want to be a real douche and do that, I only have 1 Dolka, and I only plan to have 1 Dolka, so just in case if I want to make it, it's in my extra deck now. And there you have it. Alright, YouTube, this is Itachi13, signing off.